And we are recording. So thank you everyone for joining tonight on our Aligning with Success call. My name is Mike DiMuccio. I'm a Royal Diamond Nikan. Most of you know that. Most of you are friends and colleagues for many, many years. And tonight's a very special call because we have a special guest, which is not normal for our calls, but it is a unique situation, an opportunity for us to hear from someone who has had most certainly an impact on my life. Dating way back to February 12th, 1998, when she first came out on the scene. And it's so vivid, these memories. Of course, those of you who've had children know it's like a timestamp in your consciousness. You can go back to that very moment, that very first look, that very first sound, and it's so vivid. It was like yesterday. And I remember the second person to hold Sophia, other than me as a male, was Bob Proctor at the hospital in Toronto when she was born. He and Linda Proctor came downtown and paid a visit. And so it's so fitting in so many ways when you look at what we're going to talk about tonight, how the continuity of this story seems to have taken place. Anyway, the purpose of this call, and some of you are new tonight for being on the call, and welcome for joining. Some of you colleagues, Ben, thanks for joining on tonight's call. The purpose of this forum, this call, Aligning with Success, is very specific. In fact, the title itself, and Sophia and I were talking about this before the call, just for her to become more acquainted with what is the subject material that we like to cover on this call. And Aligning with Success, the title, comes from the notion that success is a vibration. Success is a happening. It's already happened, or it's happening, and it's not a destination, it's a direction. And I took that phraseology from Bob Proctor, who gave me the definition of success, a new definition that we've incorporated into our Nikan presentations, that he got from Earl Nightingale. And that is, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Therefore, there is first and foremost progress. Without progress, you can't define it as success. So that eliminates the idea of it being a destination, an achievement, an arrival. It's not the destiny or the destination or the arrival point. It's the journey. It's the movement towards something. And then it's aligning with something. It's the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So there has to be something it's aligned with, and that is a worthy ideal. And he defined a worthy ideal as something you'd trade your life for. What would be worthy of your life? And so when I saw the 5 pillars of health as the bullseye, if you will, it was so easy to look at that and say, I'm either moving toward this 5 pillars of health or away from it. The choices that I'm making on a daily basis are either leading me toward a fuller, healthier expression of these 5 pillars, or something away from that. And that could be defined as a day, a week, a month, even a moment. It's the choices that we're making that are either in alignment with this ideal of ours, or they're out of alignment. So success in our world, in our Nikan world, is an ongoing thing. It's a daily thing, and it's a moment by moment thing. And so because that requires a level of awareness and discipline that I think is what we need to really hone in on, it was so fitting maybe to ask Sophia, who's been spending quite a bit of her time this last year or so, really developing, cultivating a forum, a format for having this conversation in her own way to people of her age group primarily, but it's certainly open to all of us. And she was invited to be a speaker on the ladies conference this past weekend. And I think you'll agree with me, those of you who were on it, she did a fantastic job. But I knew she would, because a little over a year ago, almost 2 years ago now, I invited Sophia and her siblings to join us on stage at the Humans Being More Summit in Toronto. And their subject was to tell the audience, namely you, many like us in Nikan who've been around for a while, what it was like growing up in a Nikan world, in a Nikan environment, from the point of view of a child in that environment. how did it impact them? And I didn't tell them what to talk about. They each chose their own subject material. And once again, Sophia found herself landing squarely on the subject of the mind pillar being such a fundamental influence in how that plays out in our lives. So without further ado, I'd like to invite my daughter, 22-year-old student of aerospace engineering, to share a little bit with us of the insights that she's had. And I've opened the floor to questions as well, because I think it would be really great for you to maybe just pick her brain. Again, we're talking to somebody who's a 22-year-old, and I know there's a lot of us on this call who would love to have a way of presenting Niken from the point of view of someone who would appreciate it at the age of 22. I was 27 when I first learned of Niken. And so maybe we can gain some insights from Sophia as well in that regard. So Sophia, I don't know if you have something you want to start out with and maybe get us started on this subject, and maybe I'll ask you some questions along the way. So
yeah, well, to be honest, I kind of wanted to have it as an open discussion too, because as much as you guys want to pick my brain, I want to pick your brain too. I know that there is a lot of wisdom here in this group and a lot of experience, and that's something that I lack. Right? I have my insights as being a 22-year-old, and you know, the reflections that I have had over the time that I've been growing up. I have been obviously well taught by my mentor, my father, and I've also done a lot of research of my own, but that doesn't really compare a lot of the time to the practical experience that you get from actually living, you know, and having a day-to-day life. So when I was, you know, thinking about what did I really want to touch on and hone on in this call, and we were talking about, you know, what is aligning with success? What does it actually mean to be successful? And this is kind of where I want to open the floor up to some of you and hear from some of you. What does it mean to be successful to you?
well, that's an early start, so let's go for it. Anybody?
What's your definition of success, Sophia?
I think my definition of success, when I think of what is it going to take for me to say that I've been successful, I go forward in my mind and I think to my future, and I kind of think about, imagine the moment like I'm about to leave this earth, and ask myself from that perspective, what will I have had to have done to say that I did what I came to do here? And to me, it's knowing that I made a positive influence on the people's lives who I got to touch. Even if it was just one life. Like, that's just the thing. You realize I don't need to have this fame. I don't need to, you know, change the whole world. But if I can change just one person, make a positive impact on just one person's life, then I've been successful. So to me, then I take that perspective and I kind of integrate it into my everyday life, you know, and I check in with that future version of me a lot of the time, and I ask, hey, you know, what do you think I should do in this scenario? What is going to align with that version of me that says, the only thing you need to do to be successful is make a positive impact on someone's life? And then as I'm going through my day, I kind of check in and I say, am I in alignment with that right now? You know, am I being my highest self? Am I being my most compassionate, loving, kind self? And I really used to think that success meant wealth. Like I used to define success, I think, as health, wealth, and happiness, which is a good definition. But as I grow older, I really start to realize that how successful I feel anyways has to come down with what kind of human being I am, what kind of person I'm being in my everyday life. Because if I'm not being my best self in my personal relationships, I don't feel successful, even if I'm getting 90% on my physics exam, you know? So that is what success means to me. But I really do want to hear from some of you, because I know that now I know as you grow, your definition of success might change. So what does it look like from your perspective?
Well, I'll speak up.
Here we go, Barbara, and then we'll get to Ben. Sorry, go ahead, Barbara.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, beautifully stated, Sophia. So you're 22 and you've gotten there, and I'm 70. And that's been the progression for me, because I used to be like, oh, I've got to do this and I've got to do that, and oh my God. And, you know, over the past however many years, it's calmed down, and it's about living the best life, being the best person I can be. It's about relationships, it's about creativity, it's about connection with nature, beauty, love, and joy. And it makes it all so much easier to move through life that way. And I'm really grateful that I've gotten there, and I'm thrilled that you are there. So thank you for your insights. You speak very well.
Thank you. It's interesting that you say that life seems to flow easier, because I really do feel like this is another concept I was talking about with my dad, is the fact that, you know, success is the consequence. It's the effect, it's not the cause. And when you understand that the cause is actually within yourself, it's completely with the kind of human you're being, you know, the kind of love that you're exuding into the world. And then following is, you know, whatever flows as easy as it can. Money will flow easier, you know, relationships will flow easier, life will flow easier. But that is the effect. The cause is actually comes from, you know, integrating what you think is your best self into your everyday practices. Yeah.
Cool.
I really
Ben.
like that you said that.
This is a huge subject, and it's certainly one that I reflect on a lot, trying to understand for myself. I liked, Sophia, you said that you used to think it was health, wealth, and happiness were the definitions of success. This is on my desk, literally.
Ooh, great
just
book.
by coincidence. Yeah, one of my favorite books, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And
Let's write that down.
Yeah, write that one down, Sophia. That's a must read.
I'm a total bookworm. I will read every book.
Yeah, you can see it's a thin book, but
nothing.
but the content is so rich, it will blow your mind. I have deliberately bought a number of copies because I give this book away regularly. But I share that one because Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist prior to World War II, and was also in Auschwitz and a number of other concentration camps during that time. And you know, if we were to define success to his audience, you know, in Auschwitz as health, wealth, and happiness, then they're all miserable failures. Well, that would be a terrible thing to assume, wouldn't it? If that was the case, because certainly not. I for me, because I've kind of gone through that same journey of wanting those tangible manifestations of what success looks like, and have realized that there's a couple of laws in life that I don't have control of. One, I can choose how to respond to life, but I don't always get to choose what happens to me. And as a consequence, I may be fortunate enough to grow up in a certain environment or not in a certain environment. I may choose to pursue active health, but I also may have poor health inflicted upon me as well. My best friend of 30 years just recently got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. He was a healthy guy. But how do we measure his life now? So for me, what I've come to measure is two things. And I say this recognizing that there is certainly a high level of spiritually focused people in this audience tonight. But one thing that really stands out to me is the writings of a very spiritual man by the name of Paul, who said, I've learned that whatsoever state I'm in, therewith to be content. I love that. One of the greatest challenges that I have found is to
Sorry,
be
could you say that again?
Yeah, I have learned that whatsoever state I'm in, therewith to be content. I may have to paraphrase a little bit here because I'm quoting it, but he says, I've learned how to abound and to suffer need, but both to be full and to be hungry. And we need to be able to do both and be content with both. And the great challenge I find where I can feel I am now successful is if everything gets taken from me, I can be okay with that. I'm not there yet, but I would love to be. That's my goal. So for me, one measure of success is to be able to reach that high level of living where I can be content, whether I'm healthy or sick, rich or poor, popular or unpopular, I'm doing okay. That would be a noble achievement for me. And the other one, which is a big one, which my mum actually taught me, is she said there is only one thing that we take with us in the life to come, and that is love. And so my God, love, well, she said love and knowledge. And she said, so we should spend as much of our time devoted to acquiring those two things as we can. But I think the more we can learn how to love, the more successful we'll become. And the law of attraction certainly manifests itself. I think the more abundantly we love in its truest, purest form, I think that transforms our life and certainly enables us to be content regardless of what may come into our life that we have control over or not. But that to me would be my 2 cents worth on success and achievement.
Thanks, Ben. Sophia, I think this perfectly falls right in line with what your last message, what your message was for the audience this weekend. And one of my favorite videos of yours, which is I rephrase that word, Ben, of contentment with gratitude. It's like gratitude is a present moment thing. It's whatever your state is, but when you're grateful in that state, then that spirit, that vibration, so what ensues from that? Maybe Sophia, you have some thoughts about, because you've been really talking about gratitude quite a bit. It's been something that has really impacted you in a big way. So maybe you can touch on that.
Yeah, I mean, Oprah says that if you're not grateful for what you have, then you'll never have enough. And if you're grateful even for $2, then you'll only get more. And I really think that's true. And I say it in my video too, gratitude is the great multiplier. And the beautiful thing is that you can start at 0. That's the thing with gratitude. And the way that I feel is that, sorry, let me just collect my thoughts here. I really feel that in moments of gratitude is where we find that internal peace and that internal strength, like what you're talking about, Ben, where you feel like you can have everything taken away from you and you'll still be okay. I think gratitude is that foundation that really gives us that strength. You know, gratitude is far more than just a spiritual thing. It's actually a physical thing that we can measure. You know, we can see the actual electromagnetic field that's being generated by your heart at all times. And it's no mistake that we've always thought of the heart as our greatest source of emotional strength and our greatest source of resilience. Because it truly is. You know, intuitively we know this. Now the science is proving it to us. That when we are grateful, we actually strengthen that electromagnetic field. We strengthen our heart's coherence. You know, we literally give ourselves like a jolt of energy, a jolt of strength, a jolt of enthusiasm. And that's why I think that even if you're starting with $2, even if you have nothing, but you can be grateful, you're only going to multiply your blessings from there. That is going to be the element that allows you to see past your circumstances. And that's also something we've been talking about a lot, is the idea of faith. Faith and gratitude go hand in hand. When you're grateful for what you have, it allows you to be faithful that more is on the way. And that's how it's being able to see through your current circumstances, see beyond that, into a world of possibility, which is always there, always present, always around us, and always accessible to us. But when we tune into that frequency of gratitude is really when we can start to allow those blessings to come through.
Wow. I'll tell you, that was worth the price of admission. Thank you. Anyone else?
Hey, Mike, this is Barbara Bertuzzi. I'm on a phone line right now.
Hey, Barbara.
And I'm in Florida, and I've obviously my internet's been in and out. And when you first, Sophia, when you first put it out there as to what is success, you know, you start thinking. Well, I did all different things, and for me, it's not. There is a bit of it not being content, because there's this striving, this inner force to strive. And I look at, you know, it took me, I went to my computer, I was on my phone, and then I went to my iPad, and now I'm on my landline. So to me, there was a tenacity. I'm getting on this call, you know. But when you look at the success and then what Ben had shared, I can't say it better than one of my brothers. I'm originally from New Orleans, and we were at a wedding, and he had bought a suit from Kmart because he had lost everything in Katrina. And I was like, you know, we just kind of had a moment, and I just said, Brian, you know, what are you doing? How are you doing? And this landline's about to die, so I'll call you back. But, and he said, you know, I'm just so grateful I had it to lose. And I thought, I mean, that's a gift. That was definitely a gift. He even had bought property to build a building on, and they had decided that they weren't going to let anybody build on this side of the road for so long. And so his $500,000 acreage was now worthless. And he said he would mow that lawn to take care of it and to maintain it until it opened up again. But, you know, here, all the things that he was striving for were like at a dead end. And he also didn't wear a medical coat until everybody, his community, was able to have the same medical care as everybody else in, you know, America. So anyway, that to me is the being full and the being grateful in the midst of all the things that are occurring in your world.
Can I ask you what his situation is now?
Oh, he's a doctor. He's down in St. Bernard Parish, yeah, in Louisiana, the industrial part, the 9th Ward, where you know where all those buildings are and everything that people have helped out and such. And yeah, he wears his white coat. He's the coroner, and he's doing good. You know, he's built back, and his people have great, you know, New Orleans has still got some growing to do and some things to do. But it's the places that have community and connection that we're able to build back.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go find another.
Yeah. It's really amazing to me that he was able to be grateful, not even for the $2 that he had, but for the $2 that he lost. You know, that is really astounding to me. And it just points to the fact that our ability to be grateful is unlimited, absolutely unlimited. And so that means the blessings that we can attract to ourselves through gratitude are also unlimited. And that's why I just wanted to ask what the situation that he's in now, because I'm sure that attitude has paid off and he has rebuilt what he had lost, right? Only now.
Yeah.
That's really amazing.
And his house where he was building it when his kids were young, they had the you know, all the building plan and the wood, and they were little, and they took pictures like it when they're all adults now. So he was able to build his house back and stayed in the community to build. So
I don't think everyone would have had the same attitude as him. I think probably many people would have been extremely discouraged, you know, and felt extremely lost.
Many did move away and, you know, or ran but he had to stay. He was the coroner then. And they found him a pickup truck and painted a white cross on it. It was a red pickup truck. And then Hang on, I'm trying to get on another phone.
Barbara, I want to move on with maybe someone else that we can hear from someone else. Anybody else? Thanks for that, by the way.
That was great.
Anyone else want to?
May I share?
Yes, please.
I wrote in the chat to you, success equals identifying my purpose and achieving it. So that, of course, needs some elaboration. Since I came into this amazing Nikan family around 8 years ago, I've been able to integrate so many thoughts and ideas of all of these amazing people with my evolving definition of success. And the first thing that I think of is Jeff Isom's The One Thing, and the humans being more. And I have identified my one thing as attachment to my creator. And my purpose is to serve my creator and be his shaliach, his messenger, his agent to help his world heal. And to align my actions, automatically align my actions with my purpose. And everything that we've learned from Mike in aligning with success, plus all of the other exposures that I've had, and that's my definition of success, and it evolves.
Fantastic. Sophia, I want to jump into something. Thanks, Mrs. Kramer. I've got two things that I want to get to you before we move on. One has to do with your own personal journey, because not that long ago there was a crisis. You were at a moment. I think a lot of the breakthroughs that happened to you happened very, very quickly. Mm-hmm. You sort of hit a peak moment, and maybe if you can recall, there was the crisis of what Mrs. Kramer was talking about. You were at a crossroad trying to identify your purpose with what you were doing. In this case was studying aerospace engineering. Mm-hmm. And would you just take us through what happened? Like, where were you at and what happened, and how did that transform into what was born from that, the Mind Palace?
Yeah, so this is a really good story. So we were in LA for Bob Proctor's Paradigm Shift event. And this was in June of 2018. And it was the first Bob Proctor event I had ever gone to. It was my first time hearing the information that my dad had taught us about since I was very young from a different person. So naturally, I was very intent. I was like, okay, this is great. I'm going to hear from Bob Proctor, the master. I'm going to figure my whole life out. This is going to be awesome. Because at the point that I was at, I was I think I was finishing my third year of aerospace engineering. Was it my third year or my second year?
Second year. Second year.
And I was really struggling with it because I felt like maybe this wasn't alignment with, my true purpose, and maybe I was just going down the wrong career path and putting myself through a whole bunch of stress that I didn't need to go through. And I was kind of just fed up with the whole school system in general. And so I was listening, I was hearing Bob, listening to him, and all he kept saying that day, on that first day of the Paradigm Shift event, was, make a decision. You have to make a decision. And when you make a decision, change the paradigm, right? So I was like, okay, great. I'm going to make a decision. I'm going to drop out of engineering. That's it. That's my decision. I'm going to change my whole life. I'm going to change, the program I'm in, and it's going to be good. And so we're at dinner. This is so funny when I think of it. We're at dinner and at Nobu in LA, and I'm telling my dad my new plan and all my insights from the day that I've decided I'm going to drop out of engineering. And he's just like, Sophia, you're not getting it. He's just over and over, he's telling me I'm not getting it. I'm like, what do you mean? Bob said, make a decision. You have to make a change the paradigm, right? And he's like, no, you're not getting it. Upside down, inside out. He kept saying that to me because that's another thing Bob says a lot, is upside down, inside out. I was like, what? I just didn't get it. And then I went to the bathroom. Remember I was extremely emotional, and I went to the bathroom and I looked in the mirror and I was like upside down, inside out, and something just clicked. And in that moment, I realized that by trying to change my outside circumstances, I wasn't going to change anything, because I was just going to end up being unhappy in whatever the next thing I did was. Upside down, inside out means you have to change your internal circumstances first before the external can change. At this time, I was also in the middle of an engineering internship at Bombardier, and I was 2 months in and I was hating it so much. So that was also contributing to like all this stress, right? But through that weekend, I really got in tune and in grasp with this concept that something had to be shifted inside of me before I started jumping around and changing my outside circumstances. That maybe if I could just sit with where I was right now and make a change within, then things would naturally start to change without. So when I got back, I decided I was going to go into my internship, my job at Bombardier. I was going to go into the office, and I made a decision. But the decision wasn't that I was going to leave engineering. The decision was, I love what I do. And so every time I would walk into that office, every time I would wake up, I would do things to really enforce to myself that I loved being there, that I loved going to work there. I would read Think and Grow Rich on the subway every morning and do my gratitude statement. So I was already in a good place when I got there. While I was doing my work, I would pretend that I was doing something I really cared about and was really passionate about. I would use a lot of my free time while I was there, because honestly, they didn't give us that much work, and that was part of the reason that I was frustrated. I started using that free time actually to brainstorm ideas for the Mind Palace, although I didn't know it was going to be the Mind Palace at the time. I started brainstorming all these ideas. I started really looking into the law of attraction and spirituality. And I started using my time at the internship so much differently. And you want to know what the craziest thing is? Sometimes now, like to this day, I think about that summer and I'm like, wow, I kind of miss that place. I kind of miss Bombardier, because I was just in such a high vibration going through my day. I really tuned into the vibration of I love what I do. And from that point on, the experience just completely shifted, and I found a lot of value in being there, to the point where even to this day, I miss it, because it was just such a great time in my life, such a peaceful and simple time in my life. So yeah, that's the story. And it really just comes from understanding that the internal shift is the most important thing. We often try to distract ourselves and jump around from one thing to the other. Oh, I hate this job, I'm moving, I'm leaving. Or I hate this relationship, I'm moving, I'm leaving. But then what happens? We fall into another situation and we end up feeling exactly the same. We fall into the next relationship and it's exactly the same situation. Or we go to the next job and we're unhappy all over again, right? Because a shift didn't happen inside first. And the decision, what's the thing that Albert Einstein always says? You can't fix a problem with the same thinking that started it. You have to change your thinking. You have to change your internal environment, your belief system, your paradigms. And then naturally, you'll be guided towards other external means, which is why naturally, I got the idea for the Mind Palace. And I started talking about this Mind Palace. I was like, that's a really cool name. My dad was like, that's your book. I was like, you're right, that is my book. So it just really all fell into place naturally because I had made the shift internally. And that's kind of the whole point of the story.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You know what? One of the things that you said to me that you realize is that you were looking at the Mind Palace. All your life you were looking at it. And what you discovered, what?
So I was looking at not just the Mind Palace, but like the law of attraction in general. Every time I was trying to manifest or whatever, I was thinking about it as if I was independent from it. And I realized that you actually have to create a world in your mind and step into that world and live in that world. And I used to always say to myself, I see two worlds, but I live in one. Meaning I see the outside world, I see all my external circumstances. I see that I'm sitting here at Bombardier, you know, programming this, doing my engineering work. But internally, this was the world, you know, I see two worlds, but I live in one. And I was living in that internal world of, I love what I do. You know, I was living in that world of, I used to always like sit and imagine in my mind, I really want to have a villa one day in Italy. So I literally constructed everything in my mind, and I would live there. I would go there often and check in with that place and kind of just daydream. And yeah, I really realized that the law of attraction isn't just about imagining that place or that thing or that goal. It's about imagining yourself in that place, in that thing, in that goal, as if you're already there. You know, asking yourself, what am I feeling right now? What am I smelling right now? What am I hearing right now? You know, really getting into the sensory details of that place and living there as if that is what's happening around you right now. It's being able to see beyond, like I've talked about, like not just seeing with your eyes, but seeing with your mind of the reality that you want to experience, and living in that reality over living in the one that your eyes are telling you is real. Because guess what? Neither is more real than the other. They're both equally as real. The only difference is one is vibrating at a frequency that you have not yet come into alignment with. That's the only difference.
Cool. Wow. We're going to have to go back to that. And if you guys want to go back to that point and maybe drill her a little bit more on that, please feel free to do that. I just want one more thing I want to ask you, and that is more specific to your life growing up as a child in a Nikken wellness world. You know, how has that, how, if you were to tell your friends, this is why you should tell your parents, or why you should look at this, because if you plan on having kids, this is what you want to be able to give them, what would you say was unique to you because of Nikken that is not something you saw in the friends that you grew up with?
I think as we come to this age where we're all kind of trying to figure out our life path and our career path is when I'm noticing the greatest difference, because I'm noticing that a lot of my friends have very limited thinking. They, their goals, quite simply put, like their goals aren't as big as mine. And I think it's because growing up, they saw limited realities. You know, they saw being limited by a certain number. They saw their parents having to be at work from this hour to this hour. They saw their parents having to request a week off for vacation in the whole year if they ever wanted to go anywhere. And the type of language that they heard was probably very limiting as well. Probably, you know, you have to go to school, get a good job, and start a family, and the script, we all know the script, right? And for me, that wasn't really even in question. I mean, I lived in Barbados for 3 years of my life when I was a child. I went to school in another country. We went back and forth. We were constantly traveling. I mean, I got to go to Barbados with my dad like 3-4 times a year if I wanted to, while all my friends were staying in school. This is when we were very young, and I would see my dad, you know, he was always at home, or he was creating his own schedule. He was traveling at his own leisure, and he would travel often, and I loved that. And so just being able to see the personal and financial freedom that he had has made, I think, the biggest impact on me, because now I'm not limited in my thinking. When I think about what my career is going to be, I'm not limited by doctor, lawyer, engineer. Even though I'm studying engineering, yes, I see what I do as going to reach far, far beyond that. I'm not even limited. I'm not even limited in my mind to one career. I think I should have multiple sources of income. And you know what's really interesting is it's not just me that thinks this way. It's my sister, it's my brother, it's my cousins. It's everyone who has had the influence of seeing my dad's personal success in their life has, you know, being able to see, hey, this is an option. You know, when you don't see that option growing up, you don't realize that it's there. You don't realize that you can choose, that you you know, and you can have personal freedom in your life. You don't realize that, but for me, it was just natural. You know, I never even thought about getting a 9-to-5 job. I was like, no way. After that, especially after that internship, I was like, no way. Nobody is going to tell me where I have to be from this hour to this hour in a day and tell me what I have to do.
Sophia.
Right? So, yeah, it's really just, I think, with a lot less limits.
The other day, when you were towards the end of the day, I think, on the Leading Ladies Summit, you said that when that's nice for what you were just explaining, but when you went to your dad for advice, you gave a couple examples of how he would give it back to you. And I thought that was a beautiful example. Like when you went, why did this happen or whatever? And do you remember what you said in response to that? How he handled that for helping to develop your thinking?
Definitely, yeah. So when I go to my dad for advice about things that happen in my life, usually I only go to him about the really big things. That's one thing to point out. And usually when I go to him, it's all, you know, everyone, when they go to someone, they're looking for comfort. They're looking for somebody to tell them that they're right and that the other person is wrong, and to, you know, play the blame game along with them. But my dad doesn't do that. He always forces me to look at things from a higher perspective. And he always asks me, what is this? Why do you think you attracted this to yourself? That is what he asked me. Why do you think you attracted this to yourself? And sometimes that's hard to hear, because sometimes you're like, I didn't do this. Why would I bring this upon myself? You know, like, this hurt. I didn't ask for this. But the truth is that on some level you did, or else you wouldn't be having that experience, right? On some level, maybe in this current life, maybe before you came into this life, you agreed to have that experience. There's nothing that happens to you outside of free will, and there's nothing that happens to you that is beyond what you are capable of handling. So he always asks me, why do you think you attracted this to yourself? And what do you think it's trying to teach you about yourself? Because really, you know, him asking me those questions made me understand that the situations that was showing up in my life were really a reflection of something that was happening on a deeper level inside of me. You know, and that's always the case. Life is always reflecting. Life is just a mirror, right? It's always reflecting back to you what's going on inside of you. And so that's something, a perspective that my dad has given me.
That was the takeaway from me for the week.
Really?
Yes. And as far as the wellness home goes, your dad has always shared that you were conceived in a weekend. He was the second man to hold you. You've had, you know, you kind of have had a lot of interactions your entire life. And so that's the example, I think, for all of us. So wherever we start that wellness home with whatever product in whatever environment. And the other ending that I got from our summit this weekend was community. So tonight we have 43 people here. And this weekend there were a total of 300 registered, and in the 2 4-hour sessions from 4 different time zones over 2 days, it was this dialogue and the sense of community when right now we're all confined to wherever we are. And so for those of us in the whole world, so for those of us that are confined, sitting around with these energies and being able to relate to people like this virtually. Maggie uses the word tribe. That was kind of new for me, but a group of like-minded people that however many going in a certain direction and all of that. But I just have to say, Michael, a new star is born, and a feminine one, 22. He has more Italian gestures than you do.
I'm a little biased. I saw that little starlet a long time ago, so I'm just sharing her with you now.
Madeline, I'm giving you a virtual hug right now.
Sophia, I wanted to ask you though, again, getting back to the question of if we wanted to share this information, if we wanted to approach, I don't know that we can approach your generation. Maybe we can approach people within our family of your generation, but how?
Say that. You never say, I don't think
Well,
we can.
it's not that. It's just, how do we identify, how do,
You know what I
how
think you
would you, yeah, go ahead. Just
I
tell
think
me.
you need to find someone in my generation to approach people in my generation.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking and what I was saying. So how would you share this with people in your generation? Like, what would be the conversation? How would you start it from your perspective at this point?
I would start it by comparing the benefits of joining Niken with the benefits of being an influencer on Instagram. Because to be honest, a lot of people in my generation are totally sucked into that influencer lifestyle, influencer world. A lot of people, not that they like want to be influencers, but everyone wants to get paid for not leaving their house, for, you know, posting advertisements and pictures online and creating their own content in their own time, right? And just posting it and being able to make money off that. I mean, that's a dream. Being able to work from anywhere that you want, being able to make a lot of money doing it. And just again, that idea of personal freedom. So I think you need to lay it out in that format for them. Like, compare it to what it's like to be an Instagram influencer. Right? How is that similar to being a Niken distributor? I think that
a really
might be
great
a
comparison.
really good approach. Yeah.
We've been playing with that idea recently, the idea of a platform, that Niken is a platform, much like Amazon is a platform, much like Facebook is a platform. I guess we should, or even Uber is a platform for
But you know what,
entrepreneurship, but Instagram is actually more relevant.
Instagram is very relevant to my generation, but you know what I actually notice a lot is there's a lot of misconceptions. A second point I would say is there's a lot of misconceptions about pyramid schemes. And so you don't want to come off as a pyramid scheme, and you might want to even point out to them why you're not a pyramid scheme. Because I see a lot of that. A lot of people in my generation maybe join like Monet Hair. I don't know if you've heard of that. Like, a lot of girls I know are doing that, where it's a network marketing company. Right, but they get a lot of heat from it because it's misconceived as a pyramid scheme. So being able to, because as soon as somebody thinks pyramid scheme in my generation, they're gonna be out. So you really need to be able to make that distinction as well. Why Niken is not a pyramid scheme and why it is like being an Instagram influencer. That is your case.
That's cool. I like that. Actually, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Can I add something to that? Regarding the script, going back to that script that many of us grew up with, in my 78 years, I grew up with it, and I didn't realize until I was around 35 years old that I didn't need to ask my mother's permission to knock on this door and go in, any door. And if there's a way that we can somehow get across to the younger generation to look at the script that they're living, whatever script it is. And is that really where they want to be after 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years, 120 years? Is that where they want to be? Is that the script that they want to be following?
Yeah, no, that's really awesome. Especially catch people when they're my age, when they're in university. Because when they're in university is when they're really trying to figure out, what is my next step going to be? You know, am I going to go apply to work at a law firm or whatever they're going to do? Or am I going to create my own business?
Sophia, that's lifelong. All of us are doing that.
Yeah, that's true. But I like the fact that what we're talking about here is, it's interesting that she's not talking about the products. She knows the products. She's had the products in her life all her life. But that's not the point she's singling out as where this conversation starts.
I mean, the products are important, and a lot of people are definitely getting on that trend of holistic healthcare. That is a trend right now. It's big. People want to be healthy and they want to do it naturally. So you should be able to explain how the products work. I think that offers a lot of insight. You know, it's all like, it's head and heart. You have to have both. You have to be able to describe the products in a logical way that makes sense to people so that they can understand how it actually works. But then aside from that, really push the heart of this company, the fact that it is a wellness community, that you are going to be able to provide for your family while also being able to travel the world, you know, and being able to pursue your passion. Have both. I really do think knowing the products is still important. I'm not saying it's not, but for me personally, the greatest benefit that I've noticed that Nikan has brought to my life is just showing me that there is a way out of the script. That is the biggest impact by far. The heart will always give you that little extra tug, but the head is still important, or else nobody's going to take it seriously.
I had a young come to me, and I had a tabletop and a fair, and they wouldn't take a sampling of water because I had a plastic cup. And sustainability is pretty predominant in your age group. And so then I started talking about the water bottle and all about that. And personally, I didn't feel that they even cared about the quality of the water, but more of the container and how to transport it and how to have to reuse and not make a biggest imprint. So that was a big twist for me. And she came back to me and showed me where I could get paper cups at about the same cost that were reusable. And we had a whole conversation about paper versus plastic and chemicals and such. But anyway, I found that fascinating, that it was more about the container, you know, than the actual. We have a tendency to want to talk about it's alkaline, it's this, it's that, it's good for you. No, they wanted to know about the transporting and saving and not having sustainability.
Barbara, I have a piece that Ben and I and one of our graphics people is working on for the promotion that we had talked about with respect to fundraising for schools. So there's a lot of interesting content revolving around that in that brochure. Anyways, I definitely want to keep the floor open. So if you have a question for Sophia, I'm finding this, yeah.
I just wanted to touch on what Barbara said, because I found that really interesting. And I think I know why that's happening. Because if you look at the big trends that are happening in my age group, a lot of it is toward human rights and environmental rights. It's all about saving the planet, LGBTQ rights, women's rights, equality, anti-discrimination. These are big trends in my age group. Every time I'm scrolling on social media, I'm seeing tweets, Instagram posts, whatever, all relating to human rights and environmental rights. So if you can somehow integrate that in your, I guess, really help out a lot. Like, I know for women especially, I know that a lot of Nikan is women, right? Because women are the ones who are staying home to take care of the children and whatever, right? But being able to say, hey, you don't have to just be a stay-at-home mom. You can run your own business from home. That is a huge selling point for women, because like I said, the whole trend of equality is really huge right now. Yeah.
Yeah, you were talking about yourself in your particular state, okay? And you were in a creative mindset when you were in your frustrated physical state at school. Okay, so I'm going to go back to that point. And the only point I was going to add to that is that at many, many times in our life, we need to have the creative space run wild, as you did, and that created the Mind Palace. And that's what you now have much more power and much more confidence in doing. But it's kind of like you just stated, that a lot of the young millennials are in that state of searching. And that
frustration, yeah.
Real good point. You know, because in your reflection, you can see what happened.
Yeah, but people are fed up. I'm telling you, people my age, they're fed up with the script. They're breaking the mold.
But you took those extra steps because of what you've been able to have as a foundation from your upbringing. So yeah. you had an early, what I consider is a much earlier start than Lots of people.
Oh,
So
trust me, I know.
definitely have it. So yeah, keep on growing it and expanding it. You're going to be a great attribute.
Thank you.
Any questions for Sophia? We've got a few more minutes left. I'm looking at about 6 minutes.
I'd like to recognize Heather Abbott. She was her creative genius to do this virtual summit this past weekend and pushed a lot of us that didn't want to be pushed, especially with this special week. And there's 43 people here, and it's this kind of heart and mind connection that it is the heart of Niken. So I think
We are, I think, all very grateful to you, Heather, for having taken the initiative on this and giving us a new platform and bringing, a place for women to shine, especially because that does represent the lion's share of our demographic, and also the fact that you're creating a platform for women to step into that role as leaders. So I think that's really a wonderful thing to have done. And now we're taking it to the 22-year-olds.
I was thinking of you today, Heather, and how it's much bigger than women. You've brought Niken to a whole new platform, being tech savvy and just a whole other energy level. And you should be just so proud of yourself. Like that.
So
Heather, maybe what we can do is feature you in an upcoming call, and maybe you can help us out with some of that tech stuff, just to give us some insights for everybody to sort of, I think that's something we all need to brush up on.
or even this month's Power A call, Michael.
Wait, I don't hear you, Heather, you're muted out. Wait, let me unmute you. There we go. It's weird. It looks like, now try.
I'm having sound
There you
issues.
go. There you go.
Great. Yeah. No, I would be more than happy to be a part of that. Absolutely. I think it's great that we're all starting to realize what Luis is trying to teach us, the global wellness community, and how instead of heading off in all our different directions, we need to bring it all together and work at this thing together. So that was really the impetus for Ladies Leading Ladies. So
Wonderful.
thank you so much. And Sophia, wonderful. Thank you so much for being a part of this. And,
Thank you
and
so
teaching
much.
me. I've
No,
learned so
thank
much
you
just
so
from
much
you.
for having me. Like, it's like one of those things, like I never even would have realized what I was missing out on. But now that I was part of it and I'm part of this call even, I really, really appreciate it a lot. Thank you for reaching out to me and for having me be a part of it.
So just a cheap plug, by the way, if you want to know more about what Sophia's up to and here's some of her videos, you can go to The Mind Palace. Okay, give us the call signals. It's at The Mind Palace, ampersand The Mind Palace on YouTube. Is that correct?
No, so YouTube doesn't have an ampersand.
Oh,
the
it just says,
ampersand is for Facebook and Instagram. You do the @ themindpalace.ca, all lowercase. And you can also find my YouTube channel by Googling, well, actually, you know what? It might not come up. So I'm just gonna plug my YouTube channel
into the chat. Good.
Yeah,
okay, we got time for one final
hard
question for Sophia. So make it a good one. Who's got a question for her?
I just have a quick comment. It seems that it's all about collaborating on editing the script. We're all rewriting a script and we're getting help from all of our collaborators to edit and rewrite it.
That sounds like a good, Ben, I was waiting for you to jump in. Jump in, Ben.
Yeah, I've got you said one last question.
One last question for Sophia, yeah.
Yeah, what would you say is your objective or mission with the Mind Palace?
My mission is to be a daily reminder for mainly my target audience is the members of my generation. So to be a daily reminder in the people of my close community, their lives, about their own, I have it actually written here, empowering my followers to be the creator of their own lives. I really just want to remind them that their lives are in their hands at all times, that they have a power within them that is far greater than they can ever imagine. And that with that power, they can attract to them abundance beyond their wildest dreams. That is truly my goal with the Mind Palace. I just want to be a reminder, a daily reminder.
Yeah. Well, you're nailing it. It's great work.
Join your dad and again, Sophia.
Probably. Honestly, even if Nikan isn't something I do as my full-time job, I think it's always going to be a part of my life. And I know that I could be an awesome distributor, and I would love to be part of this community. Like really be part of it as a distributor.
Guys, I got dibs on that, so don't even start. All right, let's wrap up. Sophia, it's just been amazing to have you on this call. I've been doing this call for I don't even know how many years now, so this will be a real highlight for me to share with people out there, and your insights. 2 weeks ago we had a family chat on Zoom, so we now have a family call as a result of everybody being bound to their homes. And this is how we've been plugging in on instead of our Sunday lunch or Sunday dinner all together, we're doing a Zoom all together. And so we had a conversation, just updating on what's going on, information, what's new, what's going on with everybody. And it turned out that Sophia got the last word because she had some...
it's because you gave me the last word.
Well, it's not just that, but you actually... sort of it was the bracket to the call. You really closed up the call with a brilliant insight as to the right way of thinking in terms of what we were discussing, because we were all somewhat all over the place. But I think your insights are coming from a place that's definitely beyond your head. I can sense that. I think everybody on this call can sense that. You exude this information. It's like it flows from you naturally. And I know you know that there is a source, an ultimate source to all of this wisdom. And even though we don't talk about it on this call, I know that that's something that's true for you, because it's true for me too. And I want to thank everybody for joining us. I hope you got something out of this. So first of all, thank you, Sophia, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you to Madeline for suggesting that I come on this call, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. So thank you.
Madeline reminds me of that TV or that movie, you know, the head and the neck, and it's the neck that turns the head. That's Madeline. So thank you to Madeline.
I'll find out here. Yes.
All right. Well, that's our call for tonight. Thank you for joining everybody for Aligning with Success, and we'll see you again next week. And Heather, maybe give some thought to maybe something you might want to put together for us. All right. Again, thanks everyone. Thanks, Sophia. Thanks for contributing,
Mike.
everybody.
Thanks, Sophia.
Thank you very much, Sophia.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.